Um, I gave you 4 different handouts. 2 of them actually reflecting the trend issues in terms of security management that we talked about last week. And then the second article is about the Olympic bidding procedures regarding security, the bomb, terrorism, which has been occurred a couple of weeks ago. So 1-page article actually explained that IOC will not give any penalty, any competitive disadvantages to Paris, who is one of the candidate cities of 2024 Olympic Games. And then 3-page long article actually came from Sports Business Journal, one of the prestigious magazine in the realm of sports industry. Talked about some kind of changes and more concrete preparation for safety and security of sporting event which has been in the United States. So I want you to read 3 articles, right? And then I just want you to have some kind of discussion. What do we do? The newspaper actually mentioned that Korea is one of the 60 countries that IS trying to target in the future. I don't know when. I don't know if they target 2018 Pyeongchang Olympic Games or other international sporting event in Korea. But we have to be better prepared, right? Okay, there's no perfect security management. However, we have to do our best to minimize, not just exclusively get rid of potential terrorism opportunities, but we need to minimize. We need to minimize as much as possible, so we can maintain all the sporting event and other international event without having any problems. And then 2 handout. So I want you to read the handout. Sports Business Journal during the break time. And then I'm going to talk about 2 cases, right? Which is your 3rd and 4th handout that I give you. So that is the main content of drug testing issues. Okay, let me ask a question. How many of you actually agree drug testing is unnecessary for sports event? Okay. Is there any rationale? Why do you believe it's necessary and it's critical to do?
It breaks the balance of performance level between athletes. So if anyone can use drugs and shows improved, enhanced performance, then everyone will use it. So the value of sport itself can create.
Okay, so that's true, but do you know when the drug testing system has been introduced in sports? In the 1940s, 1950s, we don't have any drug testing program, even for Olympic Games. The official anti-doping program has been introduced in the early 1960s. And I want you to think about what's the rationale. What is the main purpose of doing drug testing program, utilizing drug testing program for the Olympic Games and other international competitions? Recently Park Tae-won, right, one of the gold medalists in the 400 meters swimming competition at the 2008 Olympic Games, right? Beijing Olympic Games. So he was a hero, and then unfortunately he was his blood test came out positive, and then he admitted that he uses some performance enhancing drugs. We call it like a PED as an acronym. P, performance, E, enhancing drugs. So when you see PED and then small s, which is a plural, PED stand for all kind of steroid, including drugs, which has been believed that will help athletes better perform at some of the sporting events, not every sports event. I don't believe PED or steroid can help golfers. Golfers accurately put their golf ball into the hole. But PED probably has been popular in IAAF, track and field, International Association of Athletics and Federations. Right. What about Mike Phelps? Mike Phelps is one of the best swimmer. He received more than 10 medals at the Olympic Games. But thing is, he was diagnosed with using some PED before, and obviously, marijuana and DUI, drinking, driving, and he was arrested a couple of times. What about Sun Yang? Sun Yang is one of the competitors, right, from China. His blood test was positive. So think about how popular, how prevalent using illegal drugs or prohibited drugs in sports. As I mentioned before, Russia, what happened in Russia? Government, flooding money to the laboratory on purpose to create PED which cannot be detected by drug testing system that we have. From when? 1960s, 1970s, and still until so far. So some people seriously criticize the governmental effort, to deceive all the anti-doping program endorsed by IOC and other international track and field event. Obviously, the President Putin announced that publicly. That was nothing to do with the Russian government, and he tried to interpret it as one of the individual issue. However, unofficial document disclosed that was fully endorsed and supported by the government. And they gave more than €1 million to the president of IAAF a couple years ago, because IAAF found out several Russian athletes uses PED during the Olympic Games after 2012 London Olympic Games, and then the Russian government gave €1 million to the president, not to conceal the secret to the world. And I think hundreds of athletes currently using drugs, and then even in professional sports. And then some controversial issue came up because 1988 Calgary Winter Olympic Games. What happened? For the first time, professional ice hockey players allowed to participate and compete at the Olympic Games. Professional athlete. So several Canadian, Russian, and American hockey players uses some of the allowed drugs by NHL, National Hockey League. However, some of the prohibited items was announced by IOC. So they are professional hockey player. So they need to follow NHL guideline. So these are list of prohibited items or drugs right? However, some of the allowed drugs and items were not permitted in the Olympic Games. So Olympic Games just last like a couple weeks. So there's a controversy issue came up. They're a professional athlete. Do they have to respect IOC guideline? Because they're respecting the NHL rules and guidelines in terms of drug uses. Same thing, 1992, Dream Team allowed to play at the Olympic Games. There's a list of prohibited items by NBA. Also, there's a list of prohibited items by IOC. We are extremely lucky to see exact similarity between two listed items. However, they're not. So if you're using prohibited items determined by IOC, at the same time allowed by NBA or NHL, okay, you are not able to play for the Olympic Games. So that is the issue that has been discussed for a while. Okay. And also, I just want to ask a question. Do you think using PED, performance enhancing drugs, is just really serious issue? Using drugs at the sporting event is not same as committing a crime in this society. Think about the penalties. What kind of penalty? Park Tae-wan, he just uses drugs, which was not allowed at the Olympic competitions. And then, what's happening? He was targeted, right? He was treated as a betrayer of all Korean people. But Soon Young, Mike Phelps, they're making millions of dollars, and then they are treated in a so different way as Taewon Park was. So I want you to think about it. I mean, because this totally different perspective. And also, when I was teaching at in the United States, one of my students brought up some interesting idea. He's been an athlete by himself for the more than 10 years, and he was in his 50s, and he's a professor in China right now. He's American, 100% American. But he said, "What if we allow athletes using drugs, PED, not marijuana or some of the other drugs, just PED, with a close supervision of physicians. As long as you can maintain, you can maximize your personal athletic performance for some years, maybe 5 years as an athlete or 10 years, and then I strongly recommend." So what are the main purpose of using drug testing system? Number one, to protect the athlete safety and health. Secondly, like Park Jong-un mentioned, to protect the integrity of the game, fair competition. So, as long as the physicians allowed based on close examination of the bodies of the athlete, okay, so you can use this much, and then it doesn't hurt your body, and then you can maximize your athletic ability for a short period of time. And secondly, we know some athletes still cheating. They're using drugs. So what if we allow fairly? It's open to everyone. However, you need to take the drugs, okay, by physician's advice. And then we also can maintain the fair competitions. So what do you think? I mean, that's kind of interesting idea. So I just want to share with you. Okay, integrity of the game itself, or in the kind of diet or nutrition or health of the athlete. What? Okay. So I mean, what if the PED can be available to only adult? Okay, not solely based on their ages, but medical doctors or physicians can examine if he or she can be able to use the drugs because they were determined to be adult, psychologically, mentally, and physically. So this is different from kind of marijuana or some other drugs. So this is only for building your body, building your muscles, right? Empower your athletic ability, like Barry Bonds. This is one of the kind of popular example used by most of my students in the United States. They actually compared two photos of Barry Bonds in 1993 and then late 1990s. He was a totally different person. He was a very skinny, thin, fast, and then when he started number of home runs, and then his body is heavyweight champion types of body muscles. So he admitted he uses PED, but at the media press conference, he left a very famous quote saying, "I uses PED, however, it did not help me hit more home runs." So he said, other players can use PED, but he believes other players cannot hit as many home runs as Barry Bonds did. So he tried to confuse people. I don't know what he said, but anyway, a PED obviously can help some of the athletes. Not every sports categories, but certain categories can perform better in terms of probably their power and then strength and so on. Yeah, sorry. Hwang Ji-young, you have any? You just raised your hand before. Okay, so you brought up a very interesting issue. I'm gonna tell you the one of the slide, victory or triumph of chemistry. If you use drugs, PED, then if you win, that is not pure victory of character, but it's triumph or victory of chemistry. And then you said some of the golfer or tennises, some player can win because they have a better equipment. I'm the same person, but if I use different golf club and I can hit farther. Same thing. Where is the fair competition? From poor countries, mostly African countries, they don't have the appropriate equipment, even though they're competing at the Olympic Games. An archery team, right? Or tennises. So if you're from rich country and then have a full support, financial support from the government, and then you can be able to use better equipment, very advanced level of equipment. So you can perform better, way better compared to counterparts. Same thing, in a similar way, you can apply. So USTA, Tennis Association, disallowed one of the specific tennis racket because it's very heavy, but it can significantly affect the game of tennis. So I believe some of the golf club uses by PGA is not allowed in other competitions. So different organization can have a different guideline or standard in terms of their quality and nature and types of the equipment, because try to promote fair competition. Okay, so it seems like you are all against using drugs. Okay, Chris, you have any question, any opinion? Okay. I mean, yeah, also interesting topic was brought up by Chris, because at the Olympic Games, some athlete kind of explain or trying to get an excuse. I'm taking this medicine, PED, uh, because this is my medical treatment. Not because, I mean, how do you know? Only physician can tell. You were injured and then you need some medicine, but medicine contain kind of unlimited or unallowed or prohibited items by IOC. Okay, what to tell? And also Paralympics. After the summer and winter Olympics is over, and after in 2 weeks, the Paralympic Olympics games start. Thing is same thing. Paralympics. I'm disabled in some part, and then I have to take this medicine for my medical treatment. But some people kind of complain, oh, you using as a kind of one of the stimulus of your physical and athletic performance. Okay, there is no golden answer for that questions. So a very subjective question. And also, if you're professional baseball player, and then if you perform well this year, and then you can make billions of dollars, you will be a free agent next year, and you have to showcase how good you are. The year before, you have a long-term contract, like Park Byung-ho or some of the famous baseball players. Okay, it's not about $10,000 difference. It's about maybe $10 million or $100 million difference. They will affect significantly and financially in your life. Okay, that's why. That's why a lot of professional and amateur athletes using illegal drugs. So drug testing of high school and college athletes. So this is just number, but I believe this is the actual number should be way bigger than or larger than the number you can see in this slide. 33% and 52% of boys knew someone taking performance-enhancing drugs. Okay. And then what about the MLB, NBA, NHL? The former NBA players talked to the media. He said more than 50% of NBA players using some kind of drugs, including marijuana or some of the other more serious drugs. Why? Same reason. They kind of used it, and they're so lucky not to be caught. Also, they were fascinated by those athletes, those medicine or drugs, to better perform at the competition, which means more money. way more money. And MLB was quite smart. They used to test only less than 5% of current MLB players. Okay. What about the Olympic Games? Olympic Games. More than 50% of athletes were tested in 2012 Olympic Games. Okay. 1 out of 2 Olympians will be tested. And what's the problem of drug testing program? It takes time. Also, it costs a lot of money. How can you test 5,000, more than 5,000 athletes? How much money do you think it's going to cost? Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. So it's not cheap anymore. It takes a long time. And then it will ruin the integrity of the Olympic Games, because Olympic Games last only 2 weeks, right? 14 days or 15 days. And then in the middle of Olympic Games, you are randomly selected as one of the candidates for drug testing program. And then the result will come out probably within 24 hours. Okay? And then all the major decisions will be coming out right after that. But if the athlete complain or disagree with what WADA says, and then he or she can take that issue to CAS, Court of Arbitrary for Sport. Okay, so this is kind of a legal counsel for the Olympians. So it takes several days. So even after the Olympic Games is over, we don't know what happened. So no one, still interested in who uses illegal drugs after the Olympic Games. No one interested. So all the controversies came out after the Olympic Games, and then we will forget what happened during the Olympic Games. So that's one of the difficult part for drug testing. So reasons to test and reasons not to test. I want you to think about which side you are on. Probably all of you actually on reasons to test. But some people from different country or kind of brought up the issue. Invasion of privacy. This is invasion of privacy. I want to respect. I want to protect the privacy of the athlete as much as possible, and also unreasonable search and seizures. If you want to drug test, you need to provide this sample of your hair, blood, or urine samples. And then here's a quick question: do you know when to have blood test and when to have urine test? Which one? Blood? Usually, urine test takes place before the game starts. It will take more days to get the result, and then it will detect up to 6 months of the date of collection of blood samples. And then usually the urine samples, it will be quicker than blood test. And then during the Olympic Games, we just need your urine samples. So try to make it quicker. And before the Olympic Games start, all the athletes need to fill out the form, and you need to provide the list of medicine you take for the last or past 7 days. Okay, so urine sample can detect up to usually 7 to 10 days, but blood test can detect longer than blood test. I mean urine test. Okay, so this, I mean, some people believe that this is seizure and search and seizure. This is 수색. This is 압류. So is somebody, is the police officer trying to ask you to show your ID, and then this will be search. Okay, ID and then checking your body. But if the police officer trying to get something of your belongings, your part, hair, glasses, whatever you have with you, and blood sample and urine sample. So this is seizures, 압류. And some people believe that this is unfair to single out athlete. Okay. Why you choose athlete for drug testing? Because they're athlete? Because they are high school football players? That's why you asking them to provide the urine samples or blood samples to test? What about other non-athletes? They never been tested. So, I mean, some people believe it's not fair. Playing sports is not privilege. However, at the same time, it's not. I mean, they cannot be treated in a different way, especially in a bad way, compared to non-athlete counterparts. Okay, there's two major cases, and then I want you to take Volhynia School District first. So there's two major cases were discussed at the Supreme Court, at the Supreme Court. The first one is Volhynia School District. This is this can be one of the seminal case for all athletes who are minors, probably younger than 18 years old or 19 years old in Korean ages. So fact and holding, the U.S. Supreme Court decided 5-4 to uphold a school district athlete drug testing policy after it was challenged by a 7th grade football player. The only relevant factual differences between Dardian that we're going to cover, Dardian is Colorado, the football player at the University of Colorado, and Volhynia in this latter case. Number one, the athletes were minors. Number two, sample collection was monitored orally, except that the boys were sometimes watched from behind. And number three, the Volhynia School District claimed the existence of large-scale drug abuse crisis led by athletes. So what happened was, this school, Volhynia School District, was popular, or was famous by using illegal drugs. By whom? The football players. So there's rumors going around. So the school district purposely targeted football players. So they asked them to provide blood samples, but one of the football player resisted to provide urine sample to the drug testing team. And his mom also rejected to provide. So they filed a claim. I believe, this is my personal assumption, I think the acton uses some illegal drugs. And then if it came out as true, and then probably he will lose the opportunity to receive all scholarship at the college, collegiate level. So his mom also was strongly opposed to go through drug testing program. Anyway, so rationale, Justice Scalia, writing for the majority in Volhynia, applied the usual balancing test. I'm going to tell you what balancing test is. Balancing test to determine the reasonableness of the search. What do you mean by search? In contrast to Colorado court's analysis in Dardian, the Supreme Court found that the athlete did indeed have a diminished expectation of privacy for 4 reasons. One, in choosing to participate, they submitted themselves a higher degree of regulation than other students, and thus should expect intrusions on normal rights and privileges because they are football players, right? Which means they receive some kind of uniform for free, eat the meal plan for free. So since they have some privileges as a football player, they need to respect. Okay, and they were treated as more regularly than other non-football players in the school. Number two, they regularly engage in a state of communal address in the locker room. It is not a search for them because they kind of used to change their uniform, undress in a public locker room. So the judge believed that it's not the invasion of privacy as much as other non-athlete counterpart. Number three, they routinely undergo pre-participation physical examinations. So they kind of used to it, right? They have experiences. So they believe it's not a big problem. Ask them to provide urine sample or blood samples. Number four, they are minors, so schools standing in the shoes of the parents in loco parentis. In loco parentis means in the stance of parents. While children are in their care, possesses a degree of control that exceeds what could be exercised over adult. So since this result came out and all the minors who are athletes, doesn't matter regardless of sport, football players, soccer players, baseball players, they have to follow these decisions. So if you are suspicious in using some illegal drugs, then the school or drug testing team can target you or your whole team of sports because you are minors. Okay, teachers and coaches have some kind of more responsibility as a parent or in the stance of parent in local parentheses. And secondly, you used to undress, you used to change your uniforms and athletic training uniforms all the time, probably every day whenever you have a practices. And also, you have to go through medical examination every single year, every single season. So you know the drill. And then in choosing to participate, they submitted themselves to higher degree of regulations. So they know the regulation of the program, athletic program, etc. So this is not violating any constitutional law. Okay. And then let's take a look at the second one. Example of University of Colorado versus Dardian. Okay, thank you, Park Jung-won. So this is a similar case that the Vononia case. However, it has a totally opposite decision because University of Colorado adopted and benchmarked exactly the same process that NCAA adopted. However, they violated 5 different ways. Number one, selection. Selection, it should be random sampling. Random sampling. In Korean, should be 무작위 추출, random sampling. Even though you are suspicious, you are adult, you are a college student, somebody reports you and then, oh, I believe ABC using illegal drugs or PED, we want to test him. However, that's the direct violation of number one, selection process. It should be random sampling. Number two, confidentiality. Anyone can explain what confidentiality is? Okay, confidentiality. So it should be, you should protect the confidentiality of the athlete whose results came out positive. We don't want to know, and even athletic trainer shouldn't know. But one of the difficult parts for this number 2, if you are starting quarterback, very famous quarterback for big time institution or university, and then next game, after the drug testing was utilized, and he is not going to be a starting quarterback, and then we can assume, oh, something happened. He must be starting quarterback. He did awesome for the last couple of years. All of a sudden, his name disappeared. Okay, but if you share some result with other athletes or other non-necessary, non-related employees or personnel, then you're directly violating the confidentiality, right? Okay. Number 3, option. Okay. Third-party clinic. Third-party clinic, which means if you can agree with the result that which was conducted in under our supervision, then you can choose the third-party the clinic on your own. I believe some athletes do not agree, do not support the result. So you have an option. Okay, you can choose. Okay, and then you can have another drug testing, blood testing, whatever you do, and then bring the result. You deserve to have this kind of opportunity. And then, so this University of Colorado violated. They didn't give any other option for him. He was asked to agree with what the result came out from under their medical institution. Number 4. Okay. Treatment, education. This is not like the killing people or hurting people in society. It's not a crime. We believe, I do not support using drug at all. However, you need to receive some kind of opportunity, kind of education opportunity. Why using drug is not allowed? Why this hurting the fair competition or integrity of the game? Or if needed, you need to get some kind of medical treatment, emotional, psychological, or worst case, mental treatment. You can get away from this addiction of drugs. Number 4, but this University of Colorado didn't provide any option for treatment, or you can say medical treatment or education. Number 5, penalties. Penalty. You gotta be very clear in terms of penalties. What kind of penalties you need to get by using PED at the game? The worst case should be suspension from a participating game. That's it. Maybe you can get some emotional or ethical blame. However, more than that, that's too much. You have to miss maybe 5 games in the near future. However, you still get the opportunity to receive scholarships, and also you are allowed to participate in the classroom. Okay, gotta be clear, very clear. So this is one of the part I, personally support Park Tae-hwan. Okay, a lot of people blame Park Tae-hwan. However, the limit, the length or breadth of or scope of the blame should be strictly on athletic competitions. Okay, so penalty should be directly based on their athletic competition. But more than that, that's too much. So you gotta be violating the number 5. So University of Colorado violated these 5 parts, so which are explained in the back of your handout. So you can so if you look at the back of the Colorado cases, let's say university argued. So university argued that the athlete had a diminished expectation of privacy. So they tried to argue as same as Vernonia cases. They routinely provide urine samples as part of their annual participation physical examinations. That's true. However, this is different. Number 2, they submitted to extensive regulation of their behavior. Number 3, they are already subject to NCAA's drug testing protocol. They kind of used to NCAA's drug testing protocol. Number 4, the consequence of refusing to provide a urine sample is not severe because they only lose their opportunity to participate in athletics. Number 5, positive test results are kept confidential and not provided criminal law enforcement authorities. However, the court responded to this argument as follows. 1, athletic department personnel were involved in the sample collection process. Rendering it less private than if it had been conducted by strangers in a medical setting, which means confidentiality, right? Why athletic department personnel was involved? There is no rationale, there is no reason to do it. Number 2, none of the other behavioral regulations imposed on an athlete entailed an extensive invasion of their privacy. Number 2, kind of explaining number 4, treatment, some kind of educations. Number 3, although submission to the NCAA drug testing program might seem to render submission to CU's program less intrusive, the athlete testified that CU's policy was more intrusive because it transformed otherwise trusting relationships between athletic trainers and athletes with untrusting and confrontational introductions. Number 4, although most college athletes will never turn pro, many athletes who could not otherwise afford to attend college do so by means of their athletic scholarship, increasing their future earning potential. So it is not just the chance to have fun playing that is lost by those who refuse to be tested. Which means, number 4 kind of complicated, but this explains that how many football players at the University of Colorado can turn pro? Not many. So the main reason that they play football at the university because they need to receive scholarship. Otherwise, they are not able to study at the collegiate level. So penalty should be limited. Okay? Penalty should be limited. Okay? Being a professional football players, maybe their dream job. However, in reality, mostly they want to get undergraduate degree by playing football. Okay? Okay? And the last one, while there is no risk of criminal penalties, there is no warrant or probable cause impediment to these mandatory searches that would provide the same protection against abuse to athletes that is provided to criminal suspects. So criminal suspect is different from violating drug testing policy. So you gotta better treat the athlete within the drug testing systems. Any questions so far? Okay, so drugs testing, this is a First Amendment protection So this is a constitutional law. 헌법, 미헌법. So this is same thing, same in Korean constitutions. So primary legal analysis drug testing cases involves application of a balancing test. I want you to remember the balancing test to evaluate the reasonableness of search under the Fourth Amendment. So reasonableness, what do you mean by reasonableness? So in order to evaluate the reasonableness, we have to apply the balancing test to certain scenarios. So you don't have to remember, but once again, the key phrases within this constitution is against unreasonable searches and seizures. If you are asked to provide your urine samples because you are suspicious, you were reported as suspicious athlete at the Olympic Games, and then somebody asks you to do it, then what would you do? Is it invasion of privacy? Or is it unreasonable? Are they asking too much? So we're going to explain what reasonable searches and seizures. If you don't understand the balance test, this is another way you can understand. Since 9/11 terrorist attacks, then what happened at the international airport? You have to go through metal detectors. Okay, if you go through the metal detectors, they have a very high-tech equipment these days, so they can body scan. Okay, within kind of 10 seconds, right? With your hands up, and then the scanner actually taking up pictures all of your body, like a 360 degrees, and then it will show your naked body to someone who screen the machine, right? That is a invasion of privacy, the truly invasion of privacy. However, they still do it. Is it reasonable? It's too much. If they do so, for what? What for? So we have to assume the following two things. So this should be state action. State action means 공무원, public officers, or public organizations. So who utilize? So constitution only applies to 공무원, public workers or employees, officers, or public organizations. So was there state action? If yes, then you have to ask the second question. Does the complaint of activity constitute of search and or seizure? If TSA is the organization, but organizing the operational organization at the airport in the United States, so they are state action, which means they receive their salary from the government. 세금으로 월급을 받으면 state actions, right? And then what do they do? They check your body, searches, ID. You are asked to provide and hand your passport with you, with your photos on, and then they're going to look at your bags, check your backpacks, and then also they're going to scan your luggages. Obviously, this is a search and seizures. If so, you have to do a couple more things. Balancing. So this is a seesaw type balancing test. Number one, in the left side, protection of invasion. So individuals' reasonable expectation of privacy. as a human being, as a Korean citizen or as an American citizen, you deserve some level of privacy, guaranteed and protected by U.S. Constitution. 헌법에 보장돼. Same thing in Korea, right? And secondly, nature and degree of intrusion. If somebody trying to invade your privacy and nature, you have to think about nature and degree. Okay? As one of the female passenger in the United States, she was asked to take off her underwear, right? I told you before. So degree and nature is too much. And then one of the another travelers who had a surgery and some iron on inside his body. Whenever he went through the metal detector, it causes sound alarm. Right? So that's too much. That's what he believed. Oh, this is too much. I explained several times. They wouldn't listen to me. So he always assigned to another security rooms for further inspection of his body. Okay? So this is an individual level. However, there is just some governmental effort for security perspective. This is for homeland security. Since 9/11, 9/11 terrorist attack, this is more important to protect the homeland security. So I know this is kind of an invasion of our privacy, but this should be sacrificed somewhat. So this can be considered as a more higher than your privacy. So this is the recent trend. So government interest in conducting the search. Government officials, police officers, or TSA officers can request officially your ID, and they can check your body, or they can scan your naked body at the airport to protect the homeland U.S. The secondly, efficacy of the search in meeting the government goal. This is kind of questionable. Do you think what you do currently is the best way to do it? That's a questionable. If you are not agreeing this is the best way to do it, then you need to think about the better way to protect privacy as well as to maximize the governmental interest at the same time. So taking up or forcing the passenger to taking up the underwear, so this is too much. Another way to do it, you can do it. You should do it. What about 3D scanner? Some people believe this is invasion of privacy. But do you know better way or cost-effective way? If you do, then you gotta do it. You should do it. If not, okay, you need to respect what we do. Draws testing, same thing. Governmental interest is too much. Why do you have to utilize draws testing? Is that because government interest? Games, integrated games, Olympic game, fair competition. So we need to promote, right, integrity of games and fair competition, as well as protection of athletes' health and safety. So if you believe this is more important than your individual privacy, then it's okay to do so. Okay. So I explain this slide by using two major cases. Doctrine of in loco parenthesis gives school extra authority to regulate minor student. Because of this has become the seminal case related to minor student athletes, then you need to follow the result. However, differently from Bononian cases, University of Colorado actually lost to dirty end because they are believed to violate 5 different protocols. Okay. And eventually, this is what I can say. University of Colorado strongly believe that they didn't do anything wrong because they benchmark what the exactly same protocol that NCAA uses. However, all the system was right. However, the process and utilization of the program has been poorly done. So public universities choosing to supplement NCAA's program are subject to constitutional restraint. So you gotta be careful when you operate your drug testing system. And then virtually identical drug testing policies could be held unconstitutional if administered by a public university, but not untouchable if administered by the NCAA. So this is a very American specific topic, so you don't have to worry about it, but I want you to understand the 5 processes, because I'm going to give you another handout. Very similar procedures by IOC, operated by IOC. So I print out from IOC website for 7-page summary. So I'm going to give you after the break.